Good morning. Happy Thursday to you guys. Here I am with another chapter. So we are already on to chapter 12, the South. If you haven't been able to watch chapter 11, the school, I would encourage that. I mean, if you're following along and whatnot, because it's going to give you sort of a glimpse into. I could have put the South first, but I'm not sure that it would have been the best introduction into what I want to actually convey as the South. So if you haven't watched the school, go watch the school. So with that, here is the South. So we in the United States of America, specifically the lower 48, I don't know if this is set up in Alaska, but I'm sure it is. We know of this region in our country known as the Bible Belt. Has anyone heard of the Bible Belt, right? Like, we know. But when we talk about the Bible Belt, I'm not sure we actually sort of grasp where that is. I mean, we have an idea, right? So in my opinion, the Bible Belt, I'll just do a quick little sort of, not hit all of them, but it starts over in like Oklahoma, Texas for sure. And then it goes down all those southern states, you know, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Tennessee, Arkansas. But then it goes up a little bit, quite a bit actually. So you've got Missouri and Kentucky and the Carolinas and the Virginias and whatnot. And of course it does dissipate the further north that you go. And by the way, this is just Darren's take. I mean, I don't have any credibility to say this, but that is just, that's my take on it. The reason I'm bringing up the Bible Belt is to say this. If I went to college in the Bible Belt, where my school was located was actually the Buckle. I went to school in the Buckle of the Bible Belt in the South, and I loved it. Everybody went to church, and I mean everybody. Maybe not everybody, obviously you know what I mean, but compared to where I was coming from in Oregon, everybody was going to church, right? If you were not Church of Christ, which is what I was, you know, the denomination I was coming from, then you were Baptist. And if you weren't Baptist, you were Pentecostal. And if you weren't one of those three, like, I don't know, you were something, but it still fell into this umbrella of a Christian church, right? So there's the Bible Belt. But I can't stress enough that where I went to school, the Buckle, you guys. So the Church of Christ, as I had mentioned several episodes ago in the church, I really talked about what the Church of Christ is, what it stands for, what makes them different and whatnot. And I looked it up. There are tens of thousands of people that attend the Churches of Christ in the South based on different census statistics and things like that. I don't know if there's any way of knowing how many members there are, but I'm here to tell you they are almost all of them in that belt. And I'm bringing this up because I'm trying to paint a picture of how inundated and truly like just saturated my experience was in the South. So the Church of Christ in my little town in Arkansas, where my school was, there were approximately 25,000 residents in this town. I'm not sure what the rural area looked like around it. It was a fairly good sized town for that area. And in this town alone, there were at least 10 Churches of Christ that had more than 1,000 members each. So that literally means like half the town population, just about half, are going to Church of Christ congregations, right? Well, there were also some big old Baptist congregations that had over 1,000 members. And then there had to have been at least another 10 or 15 Churches of Christ specifically that weren't that large. But they still had 300 members, 400 members, 500 members. And the little congregations that had only 100 members, 150 members, they were rural. Those were rural churches. So it is like there are churches everywhere and everyone goes to them. So the problem that sort of posed for me was this problem that I have, the gay thing. I don't think I can let it out of the bag here. I was still believing there was a solution, But it was certainly not going to be by telling people I was gay, because that was not the place to do it. I mean, everyone there was a diehard Christian, and it was not going to go over, So that added like a little bit of just, it frightened me. I mean, everyone around me is a God-loving, church-going Christian. However, I had some really great friends that I met at all of these churches, right? Specifically from school. And it wasn't just this town in Arkansas that had, large Church of Christ populations. And again, almost all the students at this school were from Church of Christ backgrounds. So I'd made a lot of friends, and I would actually go and visit their hometowns, like on the weekends. I've been to several towns in Arkansas, rural Arkansas, Missouri, has several weekend trips to Memphis and Nashville, Louisville, a lot of trips to Dallas and Tyler, Texas, and several towns in Louisiana. And I got to, meet my friends' families and their backgrounds. So, and I was never on campus on the weekends, hardly ever. I was always going somewhere. Because remember, I had a car, and by God, I did not drive 44 hours from Oregon to not use my car. So I was always going somewhere. And so I got to know a lot of these families, right? These Church of Christ families, just Christian families in general. And oh my, did I love what I saw being in their homes. It was just, I just kept thinking, oh my gosh, I want this. Like, I want this really bad, right? Another reason that I got to see so much of the South is that I was in the chorus. There were several music groups on campus, but kind of I don't want to be elitist by saying this, but the good one, you had to audition and whatnot. It was called chorus. And we got scholarships for being in it, and all kinds of sort of accolades, if you will. And one of the reasons is because this group was really more or less seen as and they are, seriously, missionaries in a way, going around to different congregations in the South, wherever we could go on weekends, and encouraging these churches with what we had to bring. And that was just, really great music, really great message, things like that. And our chorus was fairly big. I think there were 60 members in chorus. And we had this huge bus, like a school bus. Every university has one. Ours was, I've never been on other ones, obviously, but ours was like really nice. It had like bathrooms, and it had Wi-Fi and all these comfortable seats and like all the nice lights and everything, because like you were expected to be on that bus for a long time, and they had equipped it with Wi-Fi and whatnot, because there was not going to be a single excuse as to why your homework wasn't done, why you couldn't access information, do research, like whatever it was, because we go to this super academic college, right? And so because they'd figured that out, there were weekend trips all the time. We used to go on tours every semester, and it was just a fun thing. So we would go, I specifically remember tours to Tennessee, Kentucky, Missouri, Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi, a lot in Texas, and Oklahoma, and Kansas. And we would go and we would sing in these churches. So it was always fun to get to know another Church of Christ, sort of see how they did things and whatnot. But then here's the really fun part. We would do homestays, so there's like, how are you going to house 60 college kids? We didn't just get hotels everywhere we went, because we are one big church family. And so we would have all kinds of homestays. And I'm making this a big point because I knew that being in the South and being at this school was going to provide some kind of a solution to my problem of being gay. Didn't know how yet, but it started to unfold more and more, this idea that maybe if I found the right woman, that God had prepared for me and, made all these amazing Christian contacts in my life, and so on and so on and so on. It was even further perpetuated by seeing these beautiful, solidified, upstanding, gorgeous Christian families, Church of Christ Christian families, all over the South. I mean, I'm not trying to be stereotypical or mean in any way, but almost every one of them, if they're a good Christian family, I sound awful for saying this. I don't mean any harm. I'm just telling it. when you walk into their home, either in the entryway or the living room or just somewhere close, there's almost always an iconic sort of beach picture of the whole family, and they're always wearing white shirts. This is a thing. It was like I just looked for it. Every time I was in a new house, new place, where's the beach picture? And I could envision myself like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna be the most amazing Christian dad. We're supposed to have babies, right? And we're all gonna have perfect white polo shirts on and on some white sand beach, because that's what you do. And, you know, on so many of these chorus trips, you'd get really involved with conversations with, you know, your hosts, people that are living there. They want to know about you and you learn about them. And so I just started really getting this very clear idea that, wow, this is what I want. The South is amazing. Everyone goes to church. Everyone works super hard to have amazing Christian homes. And like, this was it. I mean, it just, for literally years, this kept happening, you know. This shining example was just painted for me of what I wanted. And I mean, really, I don't know if that makes sense, but it was like just this very visual, tangible thing. And so that was why I continued to struggle, like work through my struggle. Like it was okay. There was an end game, right? So going back to last, I don't even remember when I talked about it, but I did have a couple girlfriends, whatnot. Again, never done anything. Bless them. I love them. They were always my best friends, really. And there was one girlfriend in particular that I had for a while. And thank goodness, today she's still a great friend. She's one of my only friends that I have, actually, from school. I do not have very many, which is a preface kind of for what's coming. But this girlfriend in particular lived in Arkansas, and talk about an amazing Southern family. Oh my goodness. Of all of them that I had met on these tours and with my friends going home on the weekends, hers, oh my, hers was the one that I wanted to emulate the most. All of them were successful, doctors, lawyers, things like that. Beautiful home, musicians, just funny and kind, but always in a clean way, right? And every conversation had God in it some way. They were always talking about God and how much he's done for us. And, you know, how's your relationship with Jesus? What are you struggling with? What can we help you with? And I was just like, whoa, this is great. So that's all going on too, right? And I wanted to embody this. So I knew that all this stuff I was going through, the struggles, because by the way, little like asterisk, side note, I still am finding men attractive, still like boys, still have crushes on certain guys on campus I've met, but that's all silent, right? Like I can't, there's nothing to do about that, because that's a big problem. And so it was really just this idea that the South is sort of an idyllic area, this place where, I don't know, people exist to serve God, like all of them, the majority. And I loved that. I knew it was going to be the solution. But it was real passive, y'all. So I want to talk about that for a second. People are people, and I've had the opportunity to really sort of travel the world. I've been to many dozens of countries, and people are people, like they're just people. One of my favorite pieces of study in school was, it was part of my degree, but it was just nonverbal communication. So even if you don't speak the same language, I mean, you can't understand each other at all, there is always the nonverbal component, always. One of the most universal greetings in the world is not like a wave or a nod even, it's like an eye flick. I can't do it very well. Like that's a universal greeting. I've seen it over and over and over and over again. I'm bringing this up because I love nonverbal communication. And one of the easiest ways to be passive to anyone is with your nonverbal behavior, right? These Christians in the South that I want to emulate, oh my, are they judgmental. Eye rolls, the whole crossing the arms, and you know, we talk about bless your heart as sort of like a a joke or whatever. In the South, it's not even bless your heart anymore. It's just bless. And you can use bless with different inflections. Oh, bless, bless, oh, bless. And it's like, there's a lot of judgment going on, right? The South was so passive. And I think that the way that this sort of idyllic little world that they've created on the facade, I think the reason that it works is because there is so much passiveness. You are not direct. That's not good. That's not right. You don't create problems. You don't speak up. You don't you don't create waves, ruffle feathers, however you want to look at it. And so there would be a lot of little things I would notice that I didn't really love. So as much as I was hanging on and clinging to this idea that one day I'm going to have this beautiful Christian Southern family home and wherever, I was so not used to some things. Like, for example, in our little town where my college was, after church, every restaurant in town was just packed because everyone's leaving church at the same time, basically. And if you don't have Sunday lunch at home, then you go out to eat. And there were restaurants, multiple restaurants, where if you went in, you got a discount based on the church bulletin that you showed them. Like, I go to the blank blank Church of Christ. Oh, girl, we're going to give you a 10% discount today for that. That was brand new to me. I bring it up because like, that is passive. Meaning like, y'all other bitches that go to the Baptist church, like, no, like you can eat here, but you don't get a discount. And I just thought that was so weird. There was just such judgment at church. I remember I don't remember which church it was at. I only went to Churches of Christ. So it was at one of them. You kind of hopped based on like which one you liked the feeling of. I don't know. But there was this one girl that during worship, she was like, I don't know if any of you were churchgoers, whether now or then or whatever. This is nothing bad to say about people that do this, but she was like in the moment, had her eyes closed and she was worshiping and having her moment or whatnot. And this woman at the other end of the pew got up and like stared at her. And this was a college girl doing this, by the way. And she's like, we don't do that here. And then she walked away, like in the middle of a song service in church. I was like, whoa, several times. Remember the whole, we don't use instruments thing. Well, in the Church of Christ, clapping divides churches, y'all. If you clap in worship, you're singing a song and we're clapping, whatever, that's instrumental. So some congregations, like you could not do that. Now, I grew up with all these songs. I told you about that in the music chapter. I knew all these church songs, and incredibly, all these other people know them too, right? Well, there were some parts like that I grew up learning the song where like clapping is a part of the song. One song in particular was literally titled "Clap Your Hands," like all these things, right? And I remember one time being in church, and I was a freshman, new to all of this. And I clapped, and a woman next to me grabbed my hands and pushed them down and just went. So just more or less judgment, like on a lot. One time I wore jeans, one and only time I wore jeans to church. That was fine growing up in our church in Oregon. It's not in the South. And I was told by a guy, an elder, an old guy, like, yeah, you're not going to do that again. You need slacks, and they need to be pressed. And then they followed up with like, and if you don't have an iron, you can stop by our house, and my wife would be glad to do it for you. Like, I'm like, what on earth is this? So these were some things that were hard to really get used to in the South. But regardless, I still was there. I was there to get an education. I was loving what I was studying, but I was there to fix this problem. Don't let that be forgotten. And I still believe there was a solution, right? So I just kind of let those things slide that I didn't like about the South. I loved how kind everyone was. And if any of y'all have been to the South, or if you're from the South, it is just a common thing that people wave at you, you say hi, you whatever. There is kindness, and I like that. The food was good. A lot of the food was good. my grandma being from Oklahoma, which I know there's a whole, that's not the South, like I totally get it, but they have a lot of Southern food in Oklahoma. So that's what she cooked a lot of that growing up. So like the food was good, but it wasn't anything special to me per se. But I loved this fact that everyone was Christian. It was just talk about living in a bubble. Well, I had like stepped into this bubble and I really liked it. Like I really liked it. And I just kept all the time when I was struggling. I know I've said this over and over, but really every time things got hard, I would close my eyes and I would think about these homes I had visited and the Southern Christian love that bound all these people together. And I knew somehow that's how my problem was going to be fixed. So that's the South. There are a lot of ways I could have taken that chapter, but that's my take on the South. I think I could write a whole book called The South, but that's not what this book is about. So thank you guys so much for watching and for keeping up with this. I can't believe that I'm almost halfway done. That seems crazy. Next week, it gets juicy. So if you're following along, keep an eye out for those videos because it gets a little juicy. Anyway, I hope that you have a beautiful day. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you next week.